finally got the haircut. I used to have really short hair like this in the early 2000s. So I already knew what it was going to look like. I knew I had a good shaped head for, really short hair. So it's not much of a surprise to me, but kind of forgot how good it looks, so not sure why I didn't stick with it, but yeah, anyhow. So today's video, I'll show you the Polaroid SX-70 Alpha SE, and of course I'll tell you why I got it and a little bit about how it sounds and feels and everything. And at the end, I'll tell you a little bit about the tools you might need for fixing it up. So I got this Polaroid because, one, it's the square format one, which is good for portraits, and also because it folds up really small, so it's nice for taking on trips and things like that. It's also just a really classic, historically important camera, because the SX-70s introduced integral Polaroid film, and it's engineering marvels. So that's a cool thing about it. Also, since it's square, you don't have to deal with that extra long margin being on the right or the left side of the frame if you're doing a vertical shot, like in the Spectra films. It's too bad they discontinued that. But anyway, so having the square aspect ratio, that sort of negates the problem of having just a weird extra large margin for the chemistry on one side of the image if you're doing a vertical photo, which you often have to do if you're going to do a portrait. So the square format is just nicer when it has the margin on the bottom. So that's why I picked this one instead of one of the other cameras. The Spectra cameras, of course, or Instax wide, or a pack film camera, which you can't really get a film for anyway, except with the exception of Super Sense's One Instant that they just came out with. But I'll talk about that in another video. So anyway, moving on. As far as the feel of the camera, it's a really light camera and it's really small when you fold it up. So first there's this support strut, and it has a little finger spot for you to pull it in. It folds up pretty securely, and it's pretty sturdy too when you open it up. A lot of people, they grab it by the front of the viewfinder, but you're supposed to pick it up on the end, and press forward, so it pops open really nicely, and then you have to make sure that you pull hard enough for the strut to lock into position. So overall, it's a pretty sturdy camera. It does rattle around a bit because of the focusing mechanism in here, and there's also this collapsing eyepiece that sort of makes noise when you do that, but overall it's a really sturdy camera. After that, let's see. Oh, I forgot to mention. So when you fold it up, it fits into one of these soft cases that they made for the Captiva and the Vision. It's pretty good sized for the SX-70, but there's this little button that's sewn in that you sort of have to hold out of place to stick the camera in without scratching it up. So just do it like that, and voila, it's a nice compact package that you can just throw into your shoulder bag. Alternatively, you can put a strap on it and carry it with you, even though it doesn't have any protection like that. Let's see. So that's it for the size and weight. The way you hold the camera is kind of interesting because you sort of hold it like a hamburger. And here you have the focusing wheel, which has a pretty long throw to it. That's 1, 2, 3, and a little bit more to go from infinity to minimum focus. The wheel itself is a little bit on the light side, which is nice because the toothed focusing wheel doesn't scratch up your fingertips since there's not that much resistance. And let's see, the viewfinder itself is actually surprisingly bright. If I compare it to something like a Hasselblad, the viewfinder on this is much more contrasty, but the brightness is basically the same. You sort of might get the impression that this is darker because of the extra contrast. The shadows just darker than on the SX-70. But if you look at the midtones and the highlights, they're basically the same. The shadows on this are brighter because of flare, I think, just because there's more light coming in from all angles. It's not quite as light tight. But yeah, this viewfinder is really, really bright. And in the middle, in the lower middle part, there's a split image focusing spot, and the rest is just the matte ground glass. Since these are getting kind of old, in the viewfinder, the internal mirror inside here, the edges are sort of becoming visible in the viewfinder. So there are these two very thin, faint, dark lines in pretty much all SX-70s nowadays. They're not that distracting, but if you see it, don't freak out. That's pretty normal. Let's see. I think you can get it replaced, though. Though I've never actually heard anyone say that they did that and the lines went away. So I'm just speculating that if you wanted to get rid of the lines, you might be able to get rid of it by replacing the internal mirror, the viewing mirror. Let's see. So this wheel up here does exposure compensation. If you wanted to make the photo darker, you just turn it to the right so you see more black here. If you want the photo to be brighter, you turn it to the left so you see more white. And each of these little notches, each of these little tick marks, basically equates to a third of a stop. So there's 1, 2, 3 third stops. So that's one full stop of exposure compensation, plus or minus. Just because of the meter, I think might be getting older or something. I usually have to make it one tick mark darker. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Maybe it's just personal preference, but photos just look richer and the highlights aren't quite as blown out looking when I do one tick mark darker. So that's just a third of a stop difference. Let's see. Okay, the shutter button itself, it doesn't have like 2 stages like most cameras, because there's only auto exposure, so it doesn't need 2 stages to like lock your metering or anything, or to turn on the meter or whatever. So you just sort of press it all the way down. It has a good bit of resistance, so it's not a hair trigger shutter. So it's a nice squishy, clicky shutter button. If you want to hear what the shutters and the film advance sound like, you gotta put in an empty cartridge of film. So you push on this little plastic little button thing, and then you can see the inside with the rollers and the gears and the flex cable and everything. This camera really shows you what the mechanics of it all are. So that's another pretty cool thing about this. So I'll just put in an empty cartridge, and then you can hear what the film advance and shutter sound is all like. So normally that would eject the dark side, but now you can hear what the film advance and shutter sounds like. And the mirror, it flopped up, you heard that. So it's pretty loud and very noticeable sound, distinctive and stuff, all that. But it's a fun kind of camera, not very discreet for street photography, but the focusing throw is so long that you're not really going to be doing fast changes in focus for street photography or anything like that. This is really more of a general photography, portrait photography, still life, maybe landscape kind of camera. There's basically nothing else to say, really. If you want to look at the internal stuff more, there's this little plastic cover to get at the gears in case there's like a film transport jam. So you can put that on, take that on and off really easily. And also there's like the film counter, the frame counter on the back, and the tripod socket. The original SX-70 doesn't have a tripod socket. You have to put this carriage thingy on it. So I made sure to get an alpha or something newer that does have a tripod socket on it. SX-70 film is, ISO 100, so oftentimes if you're in a shady area, you're gonna need a tripod because this lens is pretty slow. I forgot what it was, but I think it was like f8 or something, of course, maybe even slower. But pretty slow lens. You'll need a tripod fairly often, even for window light portraits or anything like that, or when the light's going dark, if you're doing landscapes. So that's pretty much it. I forgot to mention the viewfinder. It has good eye relief. I can see all edges of it, even with my glasses on. And it's a nice big image too. So basically it for this camera. Really cool. I would recommend it. If yours isn't quite working right, or Or if the leatherette is really old and falling apart, then you're going to need certain tools. So there are 4 screws here holding like the front cover on, and you'll either need a Robertson screwdriver that has like a 1mm by 1mm square tip on it, or you'll need a Torx T4 screwdriver or a T5 screwdriver. They didn't use the same kind all throughout the whole production, so you just have to look at your camera and see what kind of screws it has. And also, to get the leatherette off, on the Alpha SEs, they had a black leatherette that is almost always absolutely guaranteed to be totally dried out and disgusting and has like white powder coming off of it. So to get rid of that, you're gonna need a dental pick. This is a particular model that has sort of flattened tips on it for scraping your teeth. So you'll probably need to get that to get rid of all the dried up gunk and glue and whatever stuff is left on it. So after you get all that, scrape all of that off, you can get a covering from Aki-Asahi. And the nice thing about his Polaroid coverings is that he has the crinkle finish leatherette that is like type 4043, and that was his nicest type of black like textured leatherette covering. It's the one that Leica licensed exclusively for the M9. So like these are the last remaining stock of leatherette, replacement leatherette that you can get in that texture. So that's pretty cool. So if you're gonna get a Polaroid, you're lucked out. You lucked out because you can still get the 4043 type covering. So if you have any questions about Polaroid SX-70, or if you're shopping for one kind of Polaroid or another, drop me a line in the comments. And if you have any advice on repairing Polaroid SX-70s, feel free to throw that in too. Especially if you like know how to fix the meters just so it's accurate. That would be cool. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, if you have any opinions about Polaroid Originals film, we can talk about that too, because I really don't like how the results are coming out. The black and white has like pretty lousy highlights, I feel. It tends to blow out, and like it gets really sienna-y colored after a while. And all the shots that I have, they have like a dark stain at the top now, so they're not very archival quality. And the color photos that I've had, they're just sort of really magenta-y and washed out, and it looks like it got damaged or something sitting out on the shelf for a long time. I don't know what the deal is. But they're not coming out with, vibrant colors. It's just all magenta, yellowy, and all that. stuff. And streaky, so streaky. There are just weird streaks running through the film, and the chemicals don't spread evenly. And this is Polaroid Originals film. It's supposed to be the latest generation that's supposed to have gotten so much better, and yet it's just as bad as it used to be for me. Is the stock that we're getting here in Los Angeles worse than other places? I don't know what's happening. I've been getting all my film at Sammy's in Fairfax, and at my local camera shop here in Torrance, and it's just doesn't look good like the shots on the internet are. So what's happening? Help me out, people. Anyway, okay, I'm done. I'm done venting. So so that's it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good week.